If you've earned income in the US, it is very likely that you may also have paid state taxes as well as federal taxes. Every state will have slightly different rules, will have a slightly different rate of state tax, and will also have a different threshold at which you must file a state tax return in addition to your federal tax return. There is also a difference between somebody who's a resident for state tax purposes, someone who's a non-resident, and somebody who may be in partial resident status from a state tax perspective. While some of these rules get a little bit complicated, the good news is as you go through Sprint Tax and you tell us that you have paid some state taxes, we will then ask you the relevant questions to see if you indeed have a state tax filing obligation for the state that you earned the income in and the state that you paid the taxes in. The good news is here in New York State have tried to make things a little bit simpler for international students and scholars. So if you are an undergrad here in New York, the good news is you are automatically classified as a non-resident for tax purposes. So that means you will be filling out a New York State non-resident tax return. It gets a little bit complicated if you are no longer an undergraduate student. At that stage, New York will apply the same rules that they would apply to other folks that are coming from the US and across the US to live in New York. And it's a complicated matrix that will look at the time you spent in New York, the type of accommodation, and also the income that you've received and the proportion of income you've received in the US. Again, if those are your circumstances, Sprint Tax will ask you all of the relevant questions and figure out your residency status for here in New York. But as a warning, it's very, very common for any of our non-undergraduate students that they might be a non-resident for federal tax purposes, but actually a resident for New York State tax purposes.